Hi everyone and welcome to the webinar series. I'm Finn, your host for today's session, which is titled Publishing Research When English is Your Second Language. The session will be presented by Dr. Atsushi Kume, who is a professor in the Department of Agro-Environmental Sciences in the Faculty of Agriculture at Kyushu University. Dr. Kume specializes in environmental biophysics, forest ecology and plant physiology, and ecology. He is also the Executive Director of the Ecological Society of Japan, Ecological Research, Population Ecology, and Plant Species Biology. Today's webinar is expected to last about 45 minutes and will be recorded. The recording will be made available after the session has ended and a link will be emailed to you. As always, we welcome questions from the audience. Please feel free to send through your questions anytime via the Ask a Question button located underneath the main video player and stay with us till the end of the presentation for the Q&A session. We will be issuing certificates of attendance for participants who join us during the live session. You will receive certificate details in the post-webinar email. Now I'll pass it over to Dr. Kume, who will begin his presentation.
Okay, thank you, introduction. So, hello and good morning and good afternoon. So, I am Atsushi Kume from Kyushu University. And today, I'd like to share with you my experience of writing scientific paper in English in the hope that it will help you in your future writing. Okay, so conflict of interest statement. I have nothing to declare and I have no conflict of interest related to this presentation. So, self-introduction. I published my first paper in English in 1993 and since then I have published in various journals. I have also been asked by various journals for peer review and I have accepted as much as possible. And this was partly because I wanted to learn how to write good English papers. Over time, I was asked to be on the editorial board of English language journals, and I also served as editor-in-chief of Ecological Research. And I'm currently managing 3 English language journals. So, I have also translated English textbooks into Japanese. Translating these excellent textbooks also improved my research skills. However, the translation process took a very long time and prevented me from writing my own papers. Textbook translation is more of a translation of ideas than a translation of text, and it is not a simple process of word replacement. It also requires the creation of new Japanese terms. So I expected that my English would get better after doing so much work related to English. But unfortunately, I don't feel that I have improved my English so much. Interestingly, when I asked friends who are native English speakers to correct the English in my paper, they replied that they could not fix such English. I found that English in scientific paper is quite different from everyday English. Now, And this is a breakdown of the number of scientific papers published worldwide by country and region based on Elsevier's data. So, particularly striking is the significant growth in the number of papers published in non-English speaking countries, such as China, Russia, Brazil, and Iran. The United States, India, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia together account for less than a third of the total. This means that more than half of the world's scientific papers are likely to be written and published by people for whom English is not their first language. The number of papers published from the UK and Japan is about the same. By the way, I love to read books, but I have never been good at writing Japanese kanji since I was a child. In elementary school in Japan, children were praised for their beautiful handwriting, so I was always hiding in the corner of the classroom. Furthermore, when I entered junior high school and started English classes, I couldn't remember any English words. I couldn't even understand the grammar well, so my grades in English were always the lowest. As a result, I struggled with university entrance examinations. Fortunately, I passed an entrance examination because the university adopted optical answer sheets. The advance in the admissions system helped me a lot. When I started college life, the personal computers were just beginning to become popular. Yes, this is a brief summary of the beginning of the personal computer era, so 1980s. Development and practical application of Japanese word processor, especially the Japanese input software is developed. So front-end processor, FEP, and input method editor. Now this was used also Chinese and other languages. So type in my pronunciation in alphabet and it will be converted to kanji, Chinese characters. So it doesn't matter if my handwriting is not very good. In addition, easy to edit long sentences. It was a revolution for me, and I started to write a lot of Japanese essays and reports. And people who were good at handwriting looked at me curiously as I created sentences on the computer. But then, everyone began to use computers. The people who could use the computer well became the people who could write. Timeline related to digitization of writing publishing environment. So before 1980, articles were written by hand or typewriter, and the figure was drawn by hand using rotring and French curves. And WordStar, CPM, is very old operation system before Microsoft MS-DOS. And Grammatic, 1981, was the first grammar checking program. And IBM start to sell the PC-DOS version 1. And middle of 1980, Apple Computer developed Macintosh and Laser Writer, and this enabled desktop publishing. And Japanese word processor had become popular, but this is not a universal system, only used in Japanese. So advent of the Macintosh Laser Writer was groundbreaking, and Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop became necessary for research. With advent of Adobe Acrobat 1993, we began to digitize print materials. Then electronic journals began to emerge, and the 21st century saw a rapid increase in electronic publication of articles, including the editorial system. So Springer Link, Blackwell Synergy, Science Direct, yes, just that in the end of 20th centuries. And Biomed Central, first online journal and journal, and editorial manager. Yes, now it become popular, but it starts in 2001. And PLOS ONE, Mega Journal, now become Mega Journal, but just started in 2006. Okay, just the image. And when I started writing a paper, yes, I used this one, Oxford English Dictionary in the university library. And yes, hand right is rotring in the center, and several rulers and compass. And left down is Olivetti Letra 35 is a very virtual modern design typewriter, but no one uses at this 21st century. Okay, so top left is the WordStar, is the first, the most popular word processor, and center is Lotus 123. And Adobe Illustrator, yes, it's really innovative for illustration. And right top is a handheld dictionary. It contains over tens of dictionary in one plate. And lower right is a popular Japanese word processor system. And LCD is very small, and it can display only 4 lines. But yes, all the many of the researchers use this one for paper writing. And yes, Apple Laser Writer and the Macintosh 1984 is really innovative. And so with week, what you see is what you get is become a real world. And such a electronic publication become published style file, so PDF, so Adobe. And now the Adobe PDF is standardized in all over the world. Without these innovations, there are no electronic journal. So this is the main theme of today. How to write English papers. Yes, researchers get the work done by writing papers. all over the world and in all countries, researchers are expected to publish in English. However, it was not easy for many Japanese researchers to write a paper in English. Usually, they had to go through many rounds of correction by their supervisors before they were ready to submit a paper in English. However, in many cases, the ability of the supervisors to write English papers was insufficient. I have seen so many tragedies in my colleagues or my elder students. Now it's okay. However, when I was in my doctoral course, yes, so to obtain a degree, 3 English papers must be published. So since the establishment of my laboratory, no student had been able to receive a degree in the program. Unbelievable. My supervisor had no experience of publishing in an international journal. Of course, he had that experience to English papers, but this is the Japanese journal. So I didn't have any information. So I tried to write something like a paper blindly and submit it to domestic and international journals. There were few companies specializing in English proofreading. The manuscript was sent by international mail, EMS, and there was no electronic submission system. Piles of rejections, as you expected, but continue to revise according to peer reviews and editors' suggestions. And fortunately, finally, I managed to publish required papers. So now I have in the position of university. So after I got my degree, my old friends told me, Dr. Furukawa at the National Institute for Environmental Studies corrected your submit paper every night. I realized that the management of academic journals is based on chains of goodwill and friendship among researchers. This is my start point of journal editing. Okay, now becomes real writing process. So English expression in scientific paper is not a colloquialism, and it's very different from the English I learned before high school in Japan. There are many technical terms and expressions that are not found in ordinary dictionaries. Scientific English can't be written or fixed by ordinary English speakers. So now the English paper is complicated phrase and syntax are excluded, and simple and easy to understand expressions are selected. How do I find the right terminology usage that's not in the dictionary? I'm very sorry, very small image, but you can check this site about the detail of this site system. So IMEXIS is one of the service provided by DBCLS, the Database Center for Life Science. And you can quickly research the English expressions that frequently appear in the life sciences literature. So this system based on titles and abstracts in PubMed. PubMed is a database of the U.S. National Library of Medicine. So this content is reviewed and reliable English. And in this case, in this example, I search gravity, and over 7,000 is gravity, and 5,000 is specific gravity, and 3,000 is the gravity. Yes, there are several titles of the usage of the gravity is selected. So, in addition, you can easily get example of usage and related information from the search result. In the right hand, yes, so this column are except of the text used and link to the paper. Yes, of gravity, there are so many papers use gravity and related information. So you can directly refer the original or abstract. Hypercollocation is a search engine for searching example sentence from the over 800,000 English articles in archive. So this is similar system of indexes, but yes, and here I also searching gravity, and yes, gravity and gravity is yes. There are several, so many. Most recent usage of gravity. However, so please note that these examples are not reviewed, because archive is just registered as English text. However, this is maybe the most hot usage of the English terms for science. RE is a search service of DBCLS for abbreviations and long forms utilized in life sciences. RE searches for abbreviation and their corresponding long forms from titles and abstracts in the entire PubMed. It is also useful. So for this example, search keyword is SPF. So SPF, the long form, scientific pathogen-free, is the most used abbreviation. And second is S-phase fraction. And third is sun protection factor. Over hundreds of examples of SPF we can find. And it also co-occurring abbreviation we can find. So SPF is, for example, sun protection factor is co-occurring with UV or UVR. And S-phase fraction is PI and DI. Yes, it is very also useful to use abbreviation in English text. Ringy is online dictionary for a number of language pairs, including many bilingual sentences of pairs. Many of the example sentences include official scientific and technical text. So in this example, also the gravity, and yes, there are also astro science to biological science or electric. So many types of sentence are picked up from the database. And this system evolved into deep air, which I will show you later. And okay, so I believe the best way to improve your English is to imitate good English expressions. However, be careful when borrowing sentences. So, in the old days, it was recommended to copy and use expressions of reading papers. And the authors often reused text from their own previously published papers, the self-use. So today, such acts can be equally problematic as plagiarism or self-plagiarism. The plagiarism screening is a very important technique. iAuthenticate is a huge published paper database and is a fast query system for previously published papers or text published on the web. When you submit a paper, it is automatically checked by this system, and similarity is calculated in many cases. The example shown here is from an American journal, so this yellow part. Yes, after reviewing the authentication report for your manuscript, the editor-in-chief determined that is exceeded American Journal Science established threshold of 20% similarity to other published sources. So you may resubmit, rewriting. Okay, so recently, so many journals, yes, threshold, but this is some journals are 50%, 15%, or some journals 40%. It depends on the journals. And yes, so iAuthenticate is a really powerful tool to similarity checking. So this system means that submitted papers are automatically reviewed for originality by the machine reviewer. And I also noticed that text recycling, self-plagiarism, is now a very, very important matter for management journals. So recently, the question of whether or not text recycling is acceptable has been actively debated. However, I recommended that you avoid it as much as possible. Okay, now, so we start to write a paper. And there are two conflicting principles. Write in English from the beginning. Yes. English thinking, English writing. Write in your first language and then translate it into English. So I've tried both, but lately I've been writing in Japanese first. Fine. Yes, the keyword is AI. In 2016, the Nature reported that the AI Go system, so-called AlphaGo, defeated human champions. And Google DeepMind supercomputer is really stronger than a human. So humans can no longer beat AI in most board games, so River-C, Go, chess, and shogi, and so on. In addition, compared to 2015, The time required for machine learning of Google AI's computer in 2020 has been reduced to 160,000. Really powerful, or maybe different brain system. So multilingual statistical and neural machine translation is now a mainstream of this type of system. In 2013, Google's research team made a breakthrough. A new technology called word-to-vec, which uses a neural network, was developed, and it became possible to accurately handle the meaning of sentences. In 2016, Google Translate was significantly updated, and the translation accuracy was greatly improved. You can now use Google Translate to translate articles on Wikipedia. So, even in the field of scientific paper writing, AI has begun to exceed human capabilities. Now, you can use several free machine translation services. The Google Translate, Microsoft Translator, the Mirai Translator, and DeepL Translator, and other free and paid services are available. Adding a subscription fee, you can access to a more professional translation system. So these services are imperfect, but they are improving every day. My personal impression is it's quite similar to the Japanese kanji kobanjo system in the early days of development. However, in order to produce a perfect English paper, it will eventually require the help of a human expert at this moment. So there are many companies specialized in English proofreading for scientific manuscripts. AJE, TextCheck, Edans, Editage, Enago, and so on. So many. And English proofreading is done by PhD experts, but the level of editors varies from person to person, even in the same company. However, the level is increased, very increased compared with 10 years ago. I think the main difference between companies is in the management of the editors, assignment, accounting, and etc., or the extent of their specialization. So there are many companies specialized in medical papers, but recently, so there are a wide range of experts to support your paper. These days, some companies support everything from writing to submitting manuscript. Of course, I'm not sure this is legal, but anyway, such a service, the price is very high and it's very limited use. And if you can find, it's a good choice to hire a good personal editor. And it may be low cost and fine-tuned for your English. And if you have a chance, yes, the personal editor is maybe another choice. And yes, Ginger and Grammarly is a rather out-of-dated system, but such English language checking systems may still be useful for writing letters and so checking everyday English usage. Okay, so I'd like to close my presentation. And okay, as I explained in this presentation, the majority of scientific papers are published by researchers whose second language is English. So most of yours. And even in the field of scientific paper writing, AI is surpassing human capabilities. Yes. So, for example, I authenticate and other paper. And so this year, Springer published AI-edited books. And so, yes, so AI is evolved every year or every day or every time. So, as a result, it becomes easier to translate an article written logically in your native language into Japanese, into English. So we are entering the era of writing paper based on AI and networks. So, and I recently tried to this automated system, and my writing time is become half or less than a half. It's very efficient to use writing paper using AI and other network supported system. So I strongly recommend to catch up this innovation for your English writing paper. Okay, so I'd like to finish my talk and back to the
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kume, for your presentation. That was really great. We have time for a couple of questions, if you're ready for that. So the first question we've got is, can I use online translation tools to translate my research from non-English language to English language?
Okay, so as we have already talked about, online translation systems have become very powerful tools for paper writing. Each system has its own habits and its own advantages and disadvantages. But if you use it as a tool, your writing efficiency will increase. And there may be some mistakes, but I think the systems know the English better than I do. Is that okay?
Yeah. The next question we've got here, is it better to publish my research in English or my native language?
So, there are many factors involved in this issue, and the situation will change depending on the research topic and country. For example, if I wrote a paper on local forest conservation in Japan, it is unlikely that local residents or government officers will read it, because it is written in English. On the other hand, if the paper is not written in English, the probability that people outside of Japan will understand the situation become quite low. So, after writing a paper in English, I tried to write a review article in Japanese, explain the content. So I emphasize that writing an article in any language is always a challenge. So from my experience as an editor, I have found that even a Japanese article written by a Japanese researcher usually requires a variety of Japanese language improvements. So for researchers who can't write a proper paper in the native language. Writing a paper in English can be a very difficult task. Yes, it's my opinion and comments.
Okay, thank you. We have time for probably 2 more questions. Are there any recommended resources that researchers can refer to when preparing to publish research in English?
Of course, yes. So you can actually try the sites I presented in the seminar. And even in the native English speaker, it is very interesting and found the power of the computer.
Great. And just for everyone on the line, we will be making those presentation slides available. They'll be sent to you following the webinar, so you'll be able to look at all the resources that Dr. Kume shared in his presentation. One final question. Will peer reviewers help to correct my English in my submission?
So, as I mentioned in the seminar, there are fewer researchers whose first language is English than those who are not. Yes, most of the reviewer is not a native English. As a result, there is a huge difference in the level of English among reviewers. Reviewers may misunderstand and give inappropriate comments on correct but complex and difficult English papers. Therefore, you are essentially responsible for your own revision in English. However, on the other hand, so for example, some of the leading foreign researchers who assist in the editing of ecological research carefully correct the English of their handling papers. In my case, the reviewers and editors of several international journals have carefully corrected the English language of my papers. However, from the standpoint of journal management, the English language correction requires time and financial cost. Yes, it takes a very long time. So, with the rapid increase in the number of submitted papers and decreasing journal revenues, so I feel that the careful editing process is becoming more and more difficult. So, I strongly recommend, yes, your English to try to become more perfect as possible as you can before submitting the journals.
Okay, great. Thanks for all those answers. I think that's all the time we have for questions. So apologies if we didn't get time to get to your question. We'll be passing those questions on to Dr. Kume, and he will respond to the ones that he can. Once again, thank you, Dr. Kume, for taking the time to share your experiences. A big thank you to the audience as well for joining us today. I hope you found this session useful and informative. Have a great day, and we'll see you at our next webinar.